You're watching KRQE News 13 on Fox, New Mexico.
Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? May is National Barbecue Month. Didn't even know that. Here in New Mexico, we have our own special style that is, of course, with the traditional matanza. So we're here talking to our own celebrity historian, Mr. Raffi Andonian, about how it all got started and how we developed these different styles of mouth-watering barbecue. Raffi, how you doing, my friend?
My favorite kind of meat, barbecue.
Absolutely, yeah. We crave it all the time, and we could eat it all the time practically. But the origins of it here in America, where is this coming from?
Christopher Columbus. How was that for an answer, right?
Yeah.
Because Columbus, obviously, major role player in American history, right, in the Americas. And when he came to the Caribbean, where he was, he encountered the indigenous people cooking with green wood, as we call it, which is wet wood, right? That you can smoke. We were just talking about smoking earlier, and you get that indirect heat on there. And eventually what happened is actually with the Spanish, it spread across the North American continent. So think about DeSoto, for example, going throughout the south, what is now the southeastern United States. Think about Cortez coming here, of course, in this region. And it's through the Spanish barbacoa that spreads from that region. And to me, it's much like many of the Spanish stories. Like think about, for example, here in the Southwest, we have very special architecture, but a lot of that originates from the Moors, who are, of course, a Muslim group that had conquered the Iberian Peninsula. Well, Spanish architecture is influenced by the Moors there. Or how about the El Camino Real that comes from Mexico City up here based on indigenous footpaths, right, that they built upon. So the story of barbecue is very similar to me. It's taking these cultural influences that the Spanish were so good at integrating and spreading across the continent.
Yeah. Anybody that's ever had the pleasure of going to a matanza here in New Mexico, they're great family gatherings, and that's what's awesome about it. When we're talking about cooking it low and slow, sometimes they bury the meat in the pit.
Yep.
You get some chicharrones out of it.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, and what's really special about that to me is here, and specifically in New Mexico, is I would say that is one of the original forms of barbecue, because it hasn't changed in 500 years since introduction of pigs here in the Rio Grande Valley, and it was always a social gathering, because when you would slaughter the pig, matanza means, of course, slaughter, right, and when you translate the English and Spanish, so when you would slaughter the pig, it would be an occasion for the family to gather, and when the and friends to gather and distribute the meat, and of course it's a big undertaking, so it takes a lot of people to participate in the first place, to do what you described, to dig the hole and go underneath with the coals, and of course split apart the meat and handle the whole pig. So to me, that makes it really special, not just because it's original to its true form, and I think it's the only region in the country you have that original form for centuries, but in addition to that, it's special because it's associated with the special gathering of food, family, friends, etc. Largest matanza in the world, of course, is in Valencia, right here in New Mexico. So something, of course, makes us the capital of matanza.
Yeah, and that's how you know it. Some of the best things came from New Mexico.
That's right. That's right. And very much like New Mexico, keeping that heritage intact. I think one of the things that's very special about this region is the fact that the heritage is something that is very recognized and practiced and makes it unique in the world, I would say.
Kind of have our mouths watering this morning, Raffi, just saying. And we see, again, where those traditions are passed down, they're carried on, and there are so many different styles. Even going back to original barbecuing, there's the Carolina style, there's the Kansas City style.
That's right. And those are all variations from different cultures that are there. So in the Carolinas, for example, you have British and French influence. They do a lot of basting with sauces that are reminiscent of British and French sauces and such. In the Southeast, you have a lot of pigs, much like you have here in New Mexico. But in Texas, where you have more wide open spaces and flat land, you get beef to come out, cattle, because they take more land, whereas in the Southeast, you didn't have as much of that open space. So those variations of pig versus beef and the different sauces and stuff that you see is based on the cultures that are local to that particular area. And then eventually the evolution of grilling in the backyard, which is something a little bit different than low and slow like we're talking about. But that to me is a backyard era thing from suburbanization. So it always evolves.
And that to me says a good time for the summer, because that's where I'm going to be.
That's right.
Raffi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
As always, we appreciate it.
Yep.